Seluna, the Lady of Silver, presides over the moon, stars, and navigation. Her power over the heavens is constantly challenged by her sister Shar, who seeks to plunge the worlds into eternal shadow. Shar, the greater deity of darkness, is feared for her power over the night, secrets, and loss. The two sisters are locked in eternal conflict, of which the ramifications can be felt throughout all of Faerun. The Moon Maiden and the Mistress of the Night may play perhaps two of the most important roles in the forming plot of Baldur's Gate 3, as temples and shrines of Seluna and symbols of Shar, a black disc, are ever so present in early access. Understanding how these two particular greater deities came about will certainly provide much insight into your Baldur's Gate 3 experience. Join me on a journey through time. Long, long ago, before the existence of the planet of Toril, Lord Ao created the universe known as the Realm Space. Within this crystal sphere creation, there was naught but primordial essence, which is a raw form for the basis of all existence. The Realm Space was a chaotic, timeless nothingness, filled with misty shadows, neither light nor dark. That is, until the goddesses Seluna and Shar were born from the primordial essence. Almost identical but polar opposites, one had silver hair and the other had hair the color of a raven, one representing light and the other darkness. Like most deities though, they only assume a more physical form if need be, and in their current state of existence they saw themselves as just one being in one mind, a two-faced goddess, the sisters who were one. Despite their differences, they complemented each other and brought order out of the chaos in the realm space. From the cosmic ether, they created Abir Toril and other heavenly bodies, and in this creation process emerged the Faerunian goddess of life, Shanti, who blessed the worlds with life. Shanti would go on to ask the two-faced goddess for warmth on the planetary bodies, for there was no fire or heat which could be used to create and sustain more life. This was the moment in time when the two-faced goddess truly divided into two, for Seluna and Shar had completely separate ideas on whether or not there should be more life. Seluna sought advantage and went on to reach into the elemental plane of fire, bringing forth a fragment of ever-living flame, which was then used to ignite the sun, giving warmth to Shanti in the universe. Seluna was injured in this dangerous maneuver, and an enraged Shar countered by blotting out all light and warmth. In a desperate attempt to protect early life at the risk of her own being, Seluna tore out a part of her divine essence and hurled it at her dark sister Shar. This essence tore through Shar, pulling some of Shar's own essence loose in the process, and the combination of this magical energy into one ended up creating another goddess, the original goddess of magic, Mistral. Mistral sided with her first mother Seluna, and Shar was ultimately cast into her own darkness, enabling light and warmth to bathe the worlds within the realm space. Within the darkness though, aided by the Shadowheart, Shar once again grew strong, and the war between the two sisters would go on forevermore. In the residue of their struggles over the fate of their creations, several other original deities were also born. Jurgal, the original god of death, and Sylvanas, the forest father, are two of the many gods that we see reference to in early access. This is the battle you and I must fight forever, Shar. Night devouring the light of the moon replenishing itself. That is our place in the balance of nature, the fragile, eternal balance Lord Ao has charged us gods to uphold. In more recent times, in 1358 Dale Reckoning, over 130 years before the events of Baldur's Gate 3, the overgod Ao became angry at the deities and forced them to walk the world as mortals in a time known as the Time of Troubles. During this time where deities lost most of their divine powers, and many of which were killed, Shar decided to pose as a false avatar of Seluna in the city of Waterdeep, where Seluna was currently living in her avatar form as a woman who runs an inn by the name of Luna. When Seluna became aware of an imposter, she went to investigate at her temple, the House of the Moon. In this temple, Shar knocked Luna out with the Wand of Four Moons that she had recently stolen from Seluna. Instead of killing Seluna in her vulnerable mortal form, Shar decided to attempt to drive her mad and convince her that she was not the real Seluna. Since they were in weakened states from the Time of Troubles, Luna was driven mad and reinvented by Shar as a faithful servant of Seluna under Shar's rule, and she became a member of the Lunatics, a fanatic Selunite order. Eventually, some of Seluna's heroic and powerful companions came to rescue her, and despite Seluna fighting back against them at first, they were able to convince her of the truth of her identity. Seluna was once again able to see that this was all Shar's doing. The heroes escaped with Seluna but were ambushed by Shar. Seluna was still powerless though, and she once again fell victim to Shar, who was wielding her powerful magic rod of oblivion. Before Shar was able to end Seluna's life once and for all, one of Seluna's companions founded and opened up a dimensional door where Seluna was keeping her divine powers while she lived as Luna. Seluna was never stripped of her powers like the other gods, because she was already in mortal form when the Time of Troubles began. Seluna, now reignited with power, and Shar with the Rod of Oblivion, battled over the streets of Waterdeep, but Seluna's light was able to blast Shar's darkness away, and Shar vanished once again. In the wake of the Time of Troubles, Shar was revitalized and began actively subverting Seluna and the new goddess of magic, Misra. Misra was the current deity that maintained order in the world of magic by correcting great inequalities if things went askew. In this powerful position, the Mother of Magic must protect the weave of magic at all costs, and be less concerned with the forces of good and evil, and more concerned with ensuring that the laws of magic are upheld. Shar greatly wanted this position so that she could give more power to her shadow magic, and ultimately take over the weave itself with her shadow weave. In 1374, Shar made allies with Bane, who was one of the dead three gods, and Cyric, the trickster god. A mad Cyric under Shar's orders went on to kill Misra, causing the magical weave to collapse, and this started the disastrous event known as the Spell Plague. During the Spell Plague, arcane magic ceased to function, the planes of existence went awry, and the planet of Toril was transformed. Shar was cunningly ready for this, and she was able to combine the plane of shadow with the negative energy plane, which was a plane of death, to create a new plane called the Shadowfell, where she ruled over darkness ever since. We got to briefly see the Shadowfell in the Baldur's Gate 3 opening cinematic, and there's a chance we could end up there at some point. What Shar didn't plan for, though, was the destruction of her very own Shadow Weave, which she was expecting to replace the weave with Mistra's death. The Shadow Weave was a dark, distorted version of the weave, and spellcasters who wanted to manipulate it must worship Shar, permanently lose a piece of their mind, or make some sort of arrangement with Shar and his or her existing patron deity. The Spell Plague came to an end 100 years later in 1480, in an event known as Misra's Return. The weave was mostly restored, and arcane magic was able to be cast as it was before the Spell Plague occurred. In 1482, Lord Ao also began the Second Sundering, which restored the worlds of Toril and Abir from the ravage of the Spell Plague. As far as the Shadow Weave goes, I think it's safe to say that Shar has been working to rebuild it, as shadow magic becomes a more common sight on Faerun. We might even see glimpses of the Shadow Weave ourselves in early access, for it's speculated that it may play a part in the Illithid powers that our characters are given access to. Look out for those who may be part of the Church of Shar, for it is an organization dedicated to carrying out the wishes of Shar herself. Quick spoiler alert, there's even theories out there that Shar might be the Absolute herself, which would make her the main element of the plot up to this point. Be sure to check out fellow content creator Harbs Narbs if you would like to deep dive a little more into the actual possible theories. He's got some great videos. Seluna, on the other hand, has recently gained a lot of great reputation as she sought to help those who were in desperate need during and after the Spell Plague. She was an even greater help to the Dragonborn race who were transported from Abir to Toril. These troubling times made her become a very popular deity across all of Faerun, and she became a true symbol of hope. Even those not dedicated to Seluna would oftentimes pay their respects to her, and even make offerings in hopes of receiving some guidance. The moon of Toril is infused with Seluna's spirit, and it eternally watches over the world, helping keep darkness at bay. If you notice a cluster of asteroids near the moon, these are known as the Tears of Seluna, and Lae'zel references these when she speaks of her Githyanki training creche. Without getting too much into theory in this video, in your next Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough, keep those two deities and their history in mind, and you might find yourself coming up with your own theories. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed this lore video.